Rasululloh sallallohu alayhi va sallam bomdod namozini o'qidilar va shunday dedilar: Falonchi namozga keldimi? Yo'q deyishdi. Falonchichi? Yo'q deyishdi. U zot munofiqlarga ushbu ikki namoz, xufton va bomdod namozlaridan ko'ra og'irroq namoz yo'qdir. Agar u ikkisidagi narsani bilganlarida emaklab bo'lsa ham kelar edilar dedilar.
Assalomu alaykum va rahmatulloh. Alhamdulillah va salatu vassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Ba'd a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. My beautiful brothers, alhamdulillah, by the fadl of Allah, I made the intention and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me the ability to meet that intention to spend my time with you. I want to ask you a question. How's your book coming along? Your authors. How's your book coming along? You know about the book? Let me tell you about the book. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Kahf, the reason why I'm bringing this ayah from Surah Al-Kahf, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had our Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam encourage us to do what on Yawm al-Jumu'ah? Read Surah Al-Kahf. Not just for barakah, not just we know all the fada'il, right? Protection from the Dajjal and the this and nur from one Jumu'ah to the next Jumu'ah, but because of the ma'ani itself, the actual meaning in the ayat. Not just reading the ayat, meaning like I'm tilawatul Quran. I'm just reciting. But now when we look at the meaning, because we also last month, the same thing, the meaning. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَوُضِعَ الْكِتَابُ فَتَرَى الْمُجْرِمِينَ مُشْفِقِينَ مِمَّا فِيهِ وَيَقُولُونَ يَا وَيْلَتَنَا مَا لِهَذَا الْكِتَابِ لا يغادر صغيرة ولا كبيرة إلا أحصاها ووجدوا ما عملوا حاضرة ولا يظلم ربك أحدا. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that on the day of judgment, now this book is going to be brought forward. And now, when the criminals, because Allah specifically is mentioning here, فَتَرَى الْمُجْرِمِينَ. So when the criminals, this book, what do they have to say? What is this book? It doesn't leave anything out. Not big, not small, except that it's counted therein. We find it there. Everything is there. And what is for the mujrim, for the criminal? What is their response once they found out that they authored a book for Yawm al-Qiyamah, but they weren't conscious of the fact, they weren't cognizant of the fact, they weren't aware of the fact that their life was they're writing their book. So they say what? Ya waylatana. Meaning, when you say way, it's like you're saying that all hope has now been lost. Ya laytani kuntu turaba. These are the same people that are saying that only if my Allah now would return me to dust. He brought me from dust, from dirt. Now, if He would just make me back to dust and dirt. No Jannah. They're not asking for Jannah. Just make me not exist. Because even that is better than being in the hellfire. Ya waylatana. Now the noon is there. Noon alif. For nahnu. Woe is on us. See, not the individual here. Us. هذا الكتاب. That is for the mujrim. Now, if you think about it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said mushrik, kafir, but Allah ta'ala said mujrim, criminal, meaning this is regardless of what you profess to believe. A criminal is one who breaks the law. Regardless, Muslim, not Muslim. If you break the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then that is considered to be a criminal act in Islam, in the sight of Allah. So Allah Ta'ala is addressing criminals. And what is a criminal? if not somebody who will break the law with a disregard for that law. It's not an accident. You know what you're supposed to be doing. You know what the rule is. You know what the law is. And you have decided to do something other than that. You've decided to break the law. And thus, the title, the classification of criminal is what they call apropos. It is appropriate. So now when it's time to stand in front of the judge in court, that's what it means, Yom al-Qiyamah. Now, why do we say Maliki Yawmiddin? What is deen? It's religion, brother. Great, mashallah. Who knows what the word religion means? So why translate one word that you don't understand into another word that you don't understand? At the end of the day, you still don't understand what is the ma'na there. What is the meaning? What is the content of the word itself? What does that word represent? Deen. Because if you have it in your mind's religion, that is deficient. Deen means lifestyle, way of life. It is the way that you think. It is the way that you set your priorities. It is the way that you respond and react to situations. It is your heart. It is internal. It is external. It is how you fulfill the rights or even understand the rights of the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the deen of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Because when we say deen, we're talking about that image, that representation, that example which was set by Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam with his wondrous Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in. That is deen. So now, Maliki Yawmiddin. What is the day of deen? What is judgment? Because that's how they translate it, isn't it? The master of the day of judgment, king of the day of judgment. Where they get day of judgment? Maliki Yawmiddin, day of deen. Because of the ma'na. Because it is our lifestyles that are going to be judged. Who are you like? Are you like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Or are you like the non-Muslims? Are you like the kuffar and the mushrikeen? What are your priorities? Are they the priorities of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Or are they the same priorities of the kuffar and the mushrikeen? How do you live your life? How do you respond and react to situations? Is it the same way as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? In the ummah today, is it even understood what that means? Because now since October 7th, there's like all these questions and this, and can you do this, and can you talk there, and can you speak here, and can you explain this? Subhanallah. So, do you know and understand how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how he would respond and react to difficult situations, crises, if you will? Because if we don't, what are we doing? Our own thing. Whatever comes in our heads, whatever comes like we see other people doing and we go join it and do that too. Why? Because everybody else is doing it. We weren't sent here to do what everybody else does. We are sent here to be like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that our lifestyle, our priorities, everything, every aspect of who, how, and what we are as Muslims is supposed to be in line with him. We're supposed to be part of taqwa. You say fear of Allah. Part of taqwa, yes, but where does it come from? Because we're constantly checking. Am I in line with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Am I complying to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Am I conforming to the lifestyle of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And I have to keep checking and checking and checking. I have to watch my intentions. I have to watch my actions. I have to watch my nafs. I have to watch my shahwa, my lust and desires. I have to watch my hawa. I have to watch my fantasies and my dreams and my hopes. I have to watch all of it. Because if I don't, I will become victimized by it. In this world today, my beautiful brothers in Islam, our aqeedah regarding what is going on in the world today. We have to deal with it externally, no doubt about that, but we have to process it internally first, based on our aqeedah. Not my own personal subjective perception, not the way that I like to think or want to think or how other people are thinking or the majority is thinking. That is irrelevant. I have to understand this through truth and reality. Aqeedatul Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran gives us qasas, stories. So many stories, repetitive stories. The most repeated story in the Quran, qissa, is qissatu Musa alayhi salam. Banu Israel. Why? Ulama ikram, they explain. Out of the roughly 124,000 Anbiya alayhimu salatu wasalam, only 25 are mentioned in the Quran. Why those 25? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through their stories, He is warning us. If you are not careful, if you do not have taqwa, if you are not careful to walk in the footsteps of Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, these are the crimes that you yourselves will commit. Banu Israel got themselves in this situation because why? They wouldn't follow their prophet. They had their own thinking. They wanted to do it their own way. They would argue with him. They would question him. They would doubt him. They would blame him. It's all in the Quran. They would look at the situation and they would only see the means. It's like they couldn't see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's affair, the actions of Allah. No matter how much Allah ta'ala showed them, it's like they couldn't see that Allah is the only one who's doing anything. They've gone through plagues and this and that and the other. They're watching Musa alayhi salam. There's whole contests taking place. It's a spectacle. What took place with Musa alayhi salam was not some hidden thing in public. It was very much publicized. Everybody knew about it. And even after all of that, when Musa alayhi salam is leading them away from Fir'aun, and he takes them to the edge of the water, and now what do they say? They say that Musa, you got us killed. You got us killed. Because all they could see was the means. There's water here, there's an army there, and this guy got us in trouble. So then Allah Ta'ala does what? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala literally splits the sea and gives them 12 paths to walk on. And what do they do on the other side? Same thing. They won't listen. No matter how much He says, no matter how much Allah shows, no matter how much Allah Ta'ala is trying to press this aqeedah into their hearts, that He is the only doer. فَعَالٌ لِمَا يُرِيدُ. He does whatever He wants. أَنْتَ تُرِيدُ وَأَنَا أُرِيدُ وَاللَّهُ يَفْعَلُ مَا يُرِيدُ. You want what you want. I want what I want. Allah does what He wants. You cannot look at creation and think that creation is doing anything. If you do, that is shirk. We are in our situation because Allah wants us to be in that situation. We are in that situation because if you look at history, we have not done what we're supposed to be doing. As Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, we did it last month. Wahan. Hubb ad-dunya wa karahiyatul maut. It's all about my success, my family, my bank account balance, my business, my kids' education. As long as my family, my hopes, my dreams, my goals are met, who cares about everybody else? To the extent of what extent? Oh, it's amazing. Subhanallah. I'm listening to all of this. Meanwhile, for 30 years, I have been struggling to get the Muslim community to actually help provide resources to what? The people here that Allah is giving hidayah to. The new Muslims. Where are they at in our masajid? Why aren't they there? Now everybody's talking about, oh, subhanAllah, everybody's looking into Islam now. They're doing this, and this one's reading Quran, and this one's taking their shahadas, and subhanAllah, it's nothing new to me. We did the same thing. We watched the same thing happen after 9/11 and other periods in time. Same thing happens. Let me tell you what happens afterwards. Those same people that take their shahadas, they come into the Muslim community and they don't feel welcome. They don't feel accepted. They get stared at, they get ignored, people won't return salams, and their hearts get broken. And they leave. So they found Islam and they found the beauty of this kalima, la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, and Allah blessed them with hidayah and they accepted it. And then they find the Muslim community and they are turned off from Islam. And we can't blame them. Because we'll say at the same time, well, you're brand new like a baby, right? Somebody takes their shahada, takbir, Allahu Akbar, takbir, Allahu Akbar, takbir, Allahu Akbar. MashaAllah, hugs, welcome, barakallahu feek, wa fi feek, MashaAllah, take a little bit of this, take a little bit of that, and I'll see you never. Don't expect to hear from me again. Don't expect to see me again. Don't expect me to care again. Don't expect money from me. Don't expect help from me or assistance from me. Don't expect kindness or understanding or compassion or empathy from me. That is not our Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam. That is not how he dealt with new Muslims. Here, you can travel across this country. What is happening to our Philistinian brothers has been happening here for decades. It's nothing new. We have Muslims living in the inner cities across the US. They get ignored as they're dealing with situations. They're dealing with economic oppression, legal oppression, like all across the board. Academic oppression. Now you have gentrification, where literally the places where they have been living for generations, now they're being moved out from those places, and those places are being leveled and sold off at higher costs to build other things, other richer homes, richer businesses. I didn't see any demonstrations. It's in our backyard. I was telling the brothers we had a situation in the Chicagoland area where one of the local masjids caught on fire in the inner city. And they went to a Muslim community in the area and they said, we're trying to raise money so that we can actually repair and rebuild. They said, okay, you can come and you can do the fundraiser. So they performed the fundraiser. They were trying to raise $50,000. That was it. So they raised the $50,000. And then when they go to the administration, because the administration said all the money has to come to us first. So all the checks, whatever, comes to us and then we will give it to you in one check. Okay, sounds fine. Process, procedure, no problem. You're letting us come. Okay. That's how you do things? We'll conform. MashaAllah. They raised the whole $50,000 and it took nothing. MashaAllah. It was a short period of time. May Allah bless that community. It did not take long at all. But when those brothers went to the administration to get the check, they wrote him a check for $5,000. $5,000. He said this other $45,000, that came from our community. Our own community has its own needs, and this is all we can let you have. They gave them $5 grand, 10%, and kept 90%. I got a whole brothers, I could see you we could be here till Asr, Maghrib if you want to. It's been decades. I've been, alhamdulillah, blessed to be doing this. I have beautiful stories that will make you cry and make your heart want to fly. And then I have the stories that are so horrific and sad that you won't be able to stop crying. Which ones are we associated with? The happy ones or the sad ones? It's a reality check, my brothers. We are Muslims living in a non-Muslim land. Our responsibility, once we get here, or if you're already here, like myself, once you take your shahada, because our situation is exactly the same. We're not supposed to be here. That's just a reality, it's a fact. Imam Malik rahimahullah, he goes so far as to say, do not take a mushaf into non-Muslim lands. Do not take a mushaf into non-Muslim lands. Why? Out of fear that it will fall into the hands of the kuffar and the mushrikeen, and they will disrespect Kitabullah. And haven't we seen that? So how do we make it so that it's okay for us to be here? This is the blessing, the beauty of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. He says, it's okay as long as you are there to establish deen, to represent Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to spread the nur and the truth of Islam. Then it is permissible. Then your money will be halal. But if you do not, do I need to say it? I liken it to a tree, fruit tree. Pick your fruit, orange, pomegranate, mango, whatever trips your fancy. Here in this land, they have grown orchards. Now granted, it wasn't just water it wasn't just water in those fields, it was also blood. Regardless, the orchards were grown, and now they bear fruit. Now they bear fruit. So they're picking off the fruit from their trees. And then now we as Muslims are also picking from the fruit from their trees around the world. When actually what we're supposed to be doing is, I'll pick your fruit once, and then I'm done. Because we're Muslim. We rely and depend on Allah. We don't rely and depend on mushrikeen, wa kuffar. So we're going to take that one fruit. We'll eat it to stay alive. Okay, fine. But then we're going to take the seeds and we're going to plant our own orchard. We're going to develop our own infrastructure like these other communities did. We will have our own orchard, our own fruit for our own children to pick those fruits. So they will not be dependent upon the fruits of those whom Allah is angry with and whom Allah has misguided. But what happens if we become content depending on those whom Allah is angry with? That bank account balance, no matter how big it is now, it's actually what? It's like Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam is saying, that if you're taking one dirham illegally, it is like you are coiling a serpent around your neck. And now we are actually like those serpents, we count them. Look how much I have, look how much I made. This year was a great year, I made this much, I made that much. And then we get upset if we're not making that much. When we're supposed to be the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was given the opportunity to be a king and a prophet. He said, I would rather be poor and a prophet. Why? So that one day I eat and I'm grateful to my Allah. And one day I'm hungry and I'm patient with my Allah. Because he understood, if you want to fly in this deen, if you want to get close to Allah, it is on these two wings. The wing of shukr and the wing of sabr. For both, you have to recognize that it is only Allah who is doing. It is only and ever been and always will be Allah. Stop looking at the external situation without processing it through your deen, through your aqeedah. Realize that the solution is in Islam. It is not in economics, although that is a factor later on. It is not in politics, although that is a factor after we deal with the internal. Although it does have to deal with academics. But we'll get there. We have something else to do first. There is a methodology that has to be incorporated, but first has to be understood before it can be actually incorporated. And in this is our success, and this is our salvation, and this is change, and this is hope. Because we're just turning to Allah. So my beautiful brothers, elders, respected ones in Islam, it is time for the Muslim Ummah to wake up. It is time for us to stop focusing on this dunya and now to focus on the akhirah. It's time for us to stop thinking about what we can possess in this dunya while we're living and actually start thinking about our life, which is eternal. You can't not want to die, because that's translated is, I don't want to meet Allah. I don't want to go meet Allah. All my stuff is here. I put all the effort in here. I bought houses, I bought cars, I saved money. Like I've got plans, I've got dreams, I've got hopes, and it's all here. I don't want to die because then I'm going to have to leave it. All my effort was about here. All my hope is associated with here. So of course, the person doesn't want to die. But when we are busy sending everything ahead of us, I have to leave this place. So if you want to keep it, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam says that if you want to keep something that you possess, then give it for the pleasure of Allah, and you will find it in the akhirah, multiplied. But you have to believe. Because what we hold in our hands tangibly, what you can see, touch, taste, and smell, if we are not careful, it will override your iman if it is not strong enough. You will put your hope in the creation of Allah. You'll put your hope in people, places, and things. You'll put your hope in your own thinking, plotting, and scheming, and planning. You'll put your hope in everything except for Allah. And then we're doomed. Remember this, and I'll close with this. When I first became Muslim, and I heard the hadith, Sheikh was doing a program, and he mentioned the hadith about al-Masih al-Dajjal. Allahumma inna na'udhu bika min fitnati al-Masih al-Dajjal. And he's reading the hadith, and he gets to the point where he says that there will be a large group of Muslims that will follow him. Blew me away. I was so confused. I was so confused. How can Muslims follow the Dajjal? I was so confused, I could not understand. The beauty of it is that when you ask these questions, what's the answer? It says, you're a new Muslim. Give it some time. You'll see and you'll understand. And he was right. He was right. It didn't take long. Within 3 years, 3 to 5, I understood. It was clear. And I cried. Couldn't believe it. Like, how is it that we could have the truth, but not do anything with it? Not get the benefit from it? How can this happen? Wahan. Hubb ad-dunya wa karahiyatul maut. And all it took was less than 5 years to see it in the Muslim community and in myself. Love of this world and not wanting to die, not preparing for death. Saying stupid stuff when people die, like, oh, it's such a surprise. That statement should never come from the mouth of a Muslim. Oh, it's so tragic. That statement should not come from the mouth of a Muslim. We should never be surprised when one of us dies. We should never be shocked when one of us passes away. We can't even be surprised at all the different ways that we pass away. Because why? Allah already told us this was going to happen. The reality of all the generations that came before us, where are they now? Is this a different dunya that we're living in? They lived on a different earth and this is our earth? Same earth, same lands, same water, same Allah, same situation. Banu Adam versus Iblis. Actually, it's Banu Adam versus themselves. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to wage war first and foremost against ourselves. That our external situation, that Allah ta'ala put this understanding in our hearts and our minds and actively in our lives, that our external situation is strictly because of our internal situation. When you become weak, soft, and cowardly, your enemies will come for you. When you lose your unity and you can't trust one another, your enemies will come for you. If we want to reverse the process, then we need to do those things. We need to be united. We need to learn how to trust one another. We need to understand what it is that we're supposed to do. We need to understand what real leadership is and then follow it. We have a lot of work to do. And this can be the beginning if you want it to. It can be beginning of change. And the hope that comes from Muslims that we have in our Allah, it can spread to those who have sicknesses in their hearts, in their minds, in their lives, those without Iman. Their hope is actually Allah Ta'ala has put it in your hands to represent Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam properly, consistently, with sincerity. May Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala accept all of us. Allahumma gfir lana wa lil mu'mineen wal mu'minat wal muslimin wal muslimat al ahya'i minhum wal amwat wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Kalima-i shahodat, guvohlik kalimasi, iqrorlik kalimasi. Ashhadu an la ilaha illalloh va ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu va rasuluh. Allohdan o'zga iloh yo'qligiga va Muhammad Allohning bandasi va rasuli ekaniga guvohlik beraman.